Hi, I wanted to read this biography of Gael Varsi, who was the original person answering the family hotline way back in 1970. And some people weren't sure where Gail moved to, but we do know, and this article answers that. Also, it's important to note she passed away in 2019. Here's the article. Longtime former Vashon resident Gail Ann Varsi passed away on May 27th, 2019. Gail lived in Anacortes in a lovely old house overlooking the Güemes Channel and her beloved son Jesse, along with her beloved son Jesse and their two wonderful dogs, and surrounded by bountiful flower and vegetable gardens. She also leaves behind her fine 19-year-old grandson Aiden. During her time on Vashon, Gail was known for her skills at pruning fruit trees for maximum harvest and beauty, and for shaping and restoring neglected ornamental bushes. She always had a heart for badly pruned trees and supported Seattle's plant amnesty group. On Vashon, Gail was known by many and loved by a few enduring friends. Gail was born in San Mateo, California in 1940. She spent many summers in Oroville in northeast Washington with her mother Beatrice's family. She was especially fond of her cousin Patty, who remained a treasured friend. Gail's father Russell also took the family to Bolinas on the California coast, where her paternal grandfather had been mayor. Gail's sister Diane became an actress and was nominated for an Academy Award for her role in the movie Peyton Place. Diane passed in 1992 and left behind her son Sean and daughter Willow Houseman, who was always Gail's North Star, endless support, and trusted confidant. In 1960, Gail received her BA in philosophy at the University of Washington. In 1994, after much life experience, Gail received her master's degree in urban horticulture from the University of Washington. Her master's dissertation was a maintenance management plan for the Joseph A. Witt Winter Garden at Washington Park Arboretum. As a young woman and recent college graduate, Gail married into the Beat generation of San Francisco, pairing with a poet and then an artist from the Allen Ginsberg Lawrence Ferlinghetti culture of the early 1960s. Gail also worked in San Francisco as a community organizer. In 1970, Gail moved with her little son, Jesse, to the small, peaceful, upstate New York town of Woodstock. After the 1969 Woodstock Festival, which had borrowed the name of the small town of Woodstock located 1.5 hours away from the festival location, after it was over, a large number of untethered youth who had attended or heard about the Woodstock Festival mistakenly came and stayed in the small town, hoping to find some of the magic of the festival for themselves. At a town meeting, some Woodstock residents voiced concerns about the dozens of disaffected youth who had no means of feeding or housing themselves. Some offered temporary housing in their homes. Gail spoke up to offer her phone number to be a coordinator for community support. Gail soon helped create a nonprofit crisis intervention organization called Family to answer that need. With the help of Alex Merson, Peter Bloom, and many others, some of whom became her lifelong friends, this organization is still flourishing today, serving 3 counties in upstate New York. Gail found her way to Vashon in 1977, living in Dockton and working as a specialist gardener. She was also proficient at growing vegetables and extraordinary cannabis. In 2000, Gail was part of the original effort to clean up and restore the newly purchased Mukai Gardens site. and had diligently followed its progress through the troubles to its current glory. The following are some of the extraordinary gardens where Gael worked during and after her years on Vashon. Mendocino Botanical Garden in Fort Bragg, with a special interest in the fern collection and optimum placement of native species. Kubota Gardens in South Seattle, in its early restoration to a unique Japanese public garden. Carl S. English Gardens at the Hiram Chittenden Locks, a stately traditional garden. Berry Botanical Gardens in Portland, Oregon, with a special interest in greenhouse propagation. Hardy Primula and the collection of tiny alpine succulents. Gael moved to Anacortes in 2001, where she continued to study and learn, taking classes in human services and staying active helping elders at the local senior center. She also volunteered for the Anacortes Public Market and the newly created Time Bank. Gael never lost her interest and passion for political causes and was up to date on all current affairs with an ability to express strong, well-voiced, clear-cut opinions alongside an impassioned desire for justice in the world. I'm going to continue with another article, this one from November 15th, 2013, and it starts out this way. In 1971, the Woodstock Aquarian wrote, "Family is a crisis intervention service, a 24-hour hotline for major and minor crises. Family is communications. It is a gathering together of the community. It is a connecting service, receptive in that it answers whatever need is shown. Family becomes a mirror of what is happening and what is lacking. It is open to whoever wants to work, straight, freak, in between, whoever, whatever. Family becomes a learning process. What does it take? What does it actually mean to be non-judgmental? It takes to feel out all that family includes." This was written by Gael Varsi, family of Woodstock's first employee, and as I mentioned before, the first person to answer the hotline. Recently, I spoke with Miss Varsi. This is from the article. She said she grew up in San Francisco, California, and was working as a community organizer in Lloyd Park in 1970. On a trip east to Millbrook, she heard about the job opening at Family. Alex Mearson, proprietor of the Pants Shop and founder of Family, was looking to hire someone to run it. The modus operandi of the organization at that time was to help the many young people coming to town after the Woodstock Festival of 1969. According to Gael, the then conservative town had, quote, "no drinking fountains, no public bathrooms, and no camping grounds." She adds that she had to warn kids from California who planned to camp out about the, quote, "heavy Catskill mountain downpours." The inaugural operating space was at 13 Liberty Lane. The deal was that Gael would get a place to stay and live off her unemployment checks from California. According to Peter Bloom, an early volunteer, one of the initial requests for aid came from 13 and 14-year-old runaways. They sheltered where they could, but many were in need of counseling and social services. Other than to the police, and these young people most certainly did not want to turn themselves in, there was no place to go. Peter says that Gael was especially protective of young people who were having parental issues. Instead of immediately turning runaways over to the police, she checked into their particulars. If the kids had abusive parents, she sought to protect them and see about placing them with authorities other than police. This shielded the kids from further abuse. However, if this was not the case, she left them in the custody of the police, who contacted their parents. Bloom remembers Gael stepping forward at a town meeting and giving the chief police her home phone number. If police arriving in Woodstock didn't know where to stay, didn't know where to go, needed employment, or were freaking out, she said her service was standing by ready to help. In the beginning, Gail had a single phone in her living room. It was a very informal operation that first year. Gradually, word filtered out into the community and more people volunteered. Soon she had afternoon hours covered for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. One person became, quote, head of the day and ran the place for that day. Gail was the top coordinator and ran the operation. Gail feels the template she put in place is still being followed to this day. To help fund operations, Gail worked with such area music acts as the Fabulous Rhinestones and Paul Album on a series of local concerts that she characterized as stomps. Everyone was encouraged to dance. Some people paired off and others simply danced by themselves. Funds were also donated by Michael Esposito and Woodstock Ventures. In the beginning, family was severely restricted. All they could do was to refer people to other service organizations. By 1972, things changed, and Family of Woodstock began to offer medical services, therapists, and a doctor. They moved to the Longyear building on Rock City Road. Another new offering was drug outreach in Allenville, New York. This was headed up by Michael Berg and David Abel. They inaugurated the Soft Landing Machine, a service that helped people come down from bad trips. Gail said they had a lot of fun naming the new initiatives. After 18 months, Gael Varsi turned the reins over to Michael Berg, who runs Family to this day. The late 1960s and early 1970s were idealistic times. A sort of smile upon your brother, help one another feeling pervaded Family. Peter Bloom, who is now one of the volunteer supervisors, says that this esprit de corps still pervades the organization today. He notes, "We are family." This article appeared on a website called Woodstock Arts. It's not signed, and the name of the article is Early Days at Family of Woodstock.